Hey, I'm back. Now, I mean, this is kind of an addendum to my previous video because I touched on it and then forgot about it, but I think it's pretty important, especially these days. Um, when is it the perfect time to do anything? When are you going to do the thing that you always wanted to do? And I don't mean in like spur of the moment, whatever sporadic thing. I mean the long, systematic series of changes you want to make to your life to make it better. When are you going to start? When's it the right time to start? Let's talk about it. Now, I am a firm believer in the fact that there are no coincidences. I think that everything is ordained for a reason. I believe that. And my whole thing is if you wait for the perfect time, it ain't ever going to come. You know, if you're always waiting for the perfect moment to strike, might as well just go back to bed and never get out of it again because it's never going to fucking happen. You're always going to be waiting and you're going to live a very unfulfilled life. Now, my whole point here that I want to make is you don't need to be a genius. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be brilliant to make complex and moving decisions in your life. You don't have to have everything figured out because you never will. But you can approach things piecemeal. You can work towards it, and you can't be afraid of starting. Starting is the most important thing of doing anything because if you don't start, it never happens. So I kind of want to touch on that a little bit, tell you a little bit of an anecdotal tale about my story coming here. Uh, some details I don't usually talk about, things like that. So, one of the main reasons I ended up doing this, buying the place, moving here, doing all the shit that I did was back when I was a programmer. Me and my buddy Gabe would go on hikes, and the only time I ever felt even a like slight amount of joy in my life was when I was outside hiking. Pretty much every other time I was fucking miserable and I just didn't want to be alive. So, to me, it was kind of a natural thing. Like, I want to buy land. I want to have something. But, at the time when I was thinking about it, I didn't know I wanted to actually, move to the place, that whole thing. But I worked with Gabe back in the day because we were both interested in getting some land. And it was this place. We looked around, we came up here, bust around, look at some properties. And this was the one that was appealing to us because it was really cool. And we bought it. And pretty much after that point, every weekend I would come up here and like fuck with things and work on stuff. I'd cut up firewood and stuff like that. And I'd never ran a chainsaw in my life before I bought this property. I never split wood. I've never fucking. I barely. I built illegal buildings, but I never really built anything seriously. This is the first time I ever built anything legally. That's why it's not. They don't look the best because I'm not. Especially back then. I'm getting better, but I'm still not that good. I'm not really a fantastic carpenter. I'm kind of just a guy just trying to get by. Um, but my whole thing was I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. I just knew it would be a cool thing to have the land, and so we got it. And I came up here most weekends, and from where I was living down in Lannon, probably should have said that. It doesn't matter. I don't live there anymore. Where I was living down in Lannon, uh, to here is about a 4.5 hour drive. So I would do that every single Friday. I would come here, work on shit, leave on Sunday, get back there, work the week, come back. I kept doing it over and over and over just because I wanted to get the fuck out. Because the only time, like I said, that I felt even a remote amount of joy was when I was out of the fucking house doing shit. And this was like the summation of that because it was like my own little piece I could carve and work on. So, Gabe would come up sometimes too. He had a gal, so he was a little more tied down. But I see when I had a gal, it wasn't really big. Anyways, so about a year later, uh, we were on a hike in town in Lannon. Me and Gabe were. There was a park nearby my place called the Trout Lake Park, I think, or the Nordic Trails. I don't remember what the hell it was called, but it was a place with a big quarry that got filled in with water because it was an old quarry. And he told me as we were hiking, and that was the evening, so it was the sun was setting. It was a very nice day for being southern Wisconsin, of course. And he told me that his wife was pregnant, well, girlfriend at the time. It's complicated, but anyways, his gal was pregnant. I was like, oh boy, here we go. And he was excited, and I was excited too, because they've been together for so long, it made sense. And he said to me, Alec, I want to do whatever is necessary in order to get up there before we have the kid. Because if we have the kid here, I think we're going to be stuck here for the rest of our lives. And I said, Gabe, that's a good point. So we swore an oath to see if we could get up here and figure everything out. And that was essentially history. And after that point, we started working really hard trying to get things set up so that way we could get up here. We rented a house in town so that way they could move there. We started once they were there. I sold my house, got a quit all my jobs, got a new job, all that shit, and we started really working towards making things here a reality. Didn't know shit about anything. Never raised animals. Only ever grew a few a few crops. Didn't know shit about anything, and I came here knowing nothing. And in 6 years, I feel like I've learned a lot. I read a lot of books about certain things, and all that. But it was helpful, of course. You're never going to regret reading a book about something. But when you're in the shit, when you're dealing with the real world, things come up that you don't expect that you're never going to learn about in a book. You got to actually go out there and do it, and you're never going to know it till you do it. And that's the thing. And to bring it all back to my point, um, there are certain things you just have to do on a kind of blind faith that it's going to maybe kind of sort of work out because you don't know anyways. You don't know if your current trajectory is going to work out. It's just the one that you're in and you're comfortable with it. If you're being honest with yourself and you weighed all of the things that are currently happening in your life that are stopping you from doing whatever the thing is that you want to do, usually it's a comfort thing or a fear thing. But the standard uh, way that most people are living their lives is not as stable as it seems. So you have to really think about that. Is my life as stable as it seems? Am I really afraid of the right thing? Because a lot of times that's not true either. And one of the big things I touched on, I have a lot more of a slash and burn methodology of my approach to things. I just kind of, I just kind of fuck around and find out. That's kind of the way that I always have been. I like to push limits and shit like that. That's just the way that I am. But if you're not like that, what you have to remember is you learn as you go. You can start doing something with minimal knowledge, and as you fuck with it and as you toy with it, you will figure it out. And I'm proof of this. I didn't know shit about any of the things that I came here to do, and I'm not a master by any stretch of the imagination, but I am better than I was 6 years ago. I've learned a lot just being in the field doing it, and I've learned a lot more than if I was sitting around trying to figure everything out before I came here and did it all. And it gives you room to continuously improve. If you come with a set idea of how everything needs to be exactly, and you won't deviate from it because it has to be that exact way, no compromise, it probably will never start because you're never going to have the technical ability or know-how to actually do the thing that you have in your mind. At some point, you got to fumble, you got to fail, you got to fuck up, and that's okay. It's okay to fuck up. It's okay to fail as long as you learn from it. Some of the most important aspects of my life lately have been a result of failure. Failure is a blessing when you look at it the right way because it allows you insight into things that you may have overlooked, ignored, or chose not to think about because it was too convenient for you to think about them. Um, and that's just part of life. You're going to fail if you go in the same trajectory you're in right now, and you're going to fail if you go in a different trajectory. And I don't mean that in its totality. Like you're not going to fail and die. I'm just saying you're going to hit bumps and points of failure. Doesn't matter what choice you pick, it's gonna happen. So, do you want to fail up and figure out what you're doing the thing that you want to do with your life, or do you want to fail down, doing the shit that you hate, and continue to fuck up until you eventually die a miserable wretch? Your choice, really, your choice. Um, I just, I wish I could impart to people because this is such a, I see in people an anxiety that I've never had as a result of the way that I've been forced to live for most of my life, of being afraid to learn by example. And this, I don't know how much I believe this dichotomy, but I've heard that there's a distinction between the Eastern philosophy of education and the Western philosophy of education. Western didactics primarily relies on telling you all the information you need testing you on it and then saying, okay, now you can go do this because you've learned the mental aspect of it. So now you can be able to do the physical thing. The Eastern idea is you do it, and in doing it, you figure out all the things that you would have learned through the Western didactics of it. Now, obviously, there is a purpose to didactical learning prior to doing something, because there are certain things that if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to die. You have to figure that out too. But very few things that you're going to run into in your personal pursuits, unless you're doing some truly crazy shit, in which case you already know. There are very few things that are going to actually straight up kill you. And as long as you're not dead, um, being uncomfortable, being sad, being miserable, it's part of life. I don't have to tell you that. You already know that. If you've been alive for any amount of time, you know that misery and suffering is just part of life. And it doesn't matter what path you pick, it's going to be there. So I suppose the point I want to make is start now. You will not regret starting now. Now, you don't have to make a gigantic sweeping change to your life and fucking completely overturn everything immediately. Starting now can be as simple as a few different things that you do every day. Like for me, I started planting stuff down south so I could figure out how it worked before I came here. I had plans to have chickens that never happened down there. Fortunately, I would have gotten yelled at anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered. But I had things that I was trying to do at my house down south that would prepare me for being here. So that way I had a little bit of an idea of what I was going to run into. Of course, totally different ball game, but at least I knew a little bit of something before I came here. So it doesn't need to be nosedive right away. You can do incremental little things to go towards the trajectory that you want. Accepting the state of things as it is and not wanting to change it is the quickest way to live an unfulfilled life. And I feel bad for people that are too afraid, too anxious of failing or not knowing exactly what they're doing to actually do anything with their lives. It's fucking sad, man. It really is sad. And if you're like that, I'm telling you, you got to get past that. You got to get past that anxiety of, oh, I don't know what's going to happen, because you don't know what's going to happen anyways. You don't know. You have a rough approximation of what's going to happen tomorrow. You have no fucking idea. Your house could burn down. You could be homeless. You could fucking die in your sleep. You have no idea. You don't know anything. Stop pretending like you do. Okay, that's one. Two, to get over that fear, just do these small incremental things to get better at the thing that you're trying to accomplish. So that way, when you're at the end of the road and you've done all these little incremental pieces, you can add them together and you've accomplished the thing that you wanted to do. And you're like, wow, I can do that thing I wanted to do. Isn't that crazy? The capacity of the human body and mind is beyond what I originally thought. And people underestimate themselves and um, the positive potential of mankind. We live in a cynical age, so it's a very common thing. Um, Overcoming cynicism, and I may make a video on philosophy being a sort of magic. I've been talking about that with Gabe a lot, and I do believe that. But we're not going to talk about this. This is going to be like 50 minutes. You need to, you have to take that and get rid of it. We live in a beautiful, majestic world that has a impossible complexity to it. That is, the more you learn about one thing, the more it boggles the mind. I mean, the more I've been here, the more I've seen how fucking impossibly complicated every single little tiny thing is in the world. It's beautiful. I mean, it is truly trying to reduce, being a reductionist and being a cynic. I don't know how you could be out doing the shit that I do and be that way. If you're living in the city and you're in systems set up by man, I get it, because man is a. Do I want to talk about this? I'm not going to talk about this. Anyways, you gotta stop being cynical. You gotta. I mean, it will fucking free you. You need to start looking at the potential and not looking at the potential for success and not the potential for failure. Even if you fail in totality and not by death, but even kind of, Um, there is still something to be learned in total failure. Even in the worst possible situation in your mind, there is something to learn. There is something positive. There's a duality to all things, like I talked about in the previous video. So, yeah, baby steps. You'll work it out. Hopefully, you thought about a few things. Have a good day.